Hello there and welcome to another of Mrs. C's Maths Lessons. Hi there, so here are the answers for yesterday's work. Hopefully you had 3 new rectangles on your quadrant graph. It should look a bit like this. So this is 1, so this is position 1, okay? So because the mirror line is here, these lines and these lines run parallel, 1 position away from that mirror line and then 2 positions away, and the coordinates are 3 on the x, 1 on the y, 4 on the x, 0 on the y, 0 and -2, and 1 and -1, okay? Always remembering when you're doing those coordinates that you go x coordinate first, y coordinate second, okay? And then this one was a bit trickier, wasn't it? Using the x-axis as the mirror line. So if you look, it is symmetrical, with this being the butterfly's body and these wings having some symmetrical pattern. So a way to check whether you've got it right and in line is that each point, if you drew a straight line down, they would be absolutely vertically opposite each other, okay? And the same distance away from that mirror line. Okay, so that was a little bit more tricky to do, but if you had your wits about you, you could do it. Here come the coordinates, this top one here, -1 and -1. This one here, 1 and -3, 0 and -4, and -2 and -2. Okay? Excellent. Okay, let's regroup and move on to today's lesson. Hi, so today we are going to move on a little bit from graphs to a different type of graph, a pie chart. So today's lesson is learning to intend pie charts 1, okay? So that is your learning intention for the day. Into your maths books or your piece of paper, please. We do have a little bit of a problem teaching pie charts online because a lot of you, when you left school, you didn't take a compass with you, you didn't take a protractor with you. But we can get round that. We're going to learn how to interpret pie charts, but we're not going to actually draw them. But if you're doing your SATS exams, you don't draw them anyway, okay? You just interpret them. So we're just going to do that part of pie charts and not actually drawing them. I have drawn one on the board though, and I used a cork mat that I would put my plants on. You might want to draw one in your maths book. And in order to do that, you could draw around a glass or a mug or something like that, something that's circular in your kitchen. You don't have to draw them. You might just want to for the first couple of goes. Okay? Right, so if you are going to draw, pause and copy this. If not, let's just roll on. So this pie chart shows, this is a pie chart, and in this pie chart, it represents 350 votes. So the pie chart represents 350 votes cast in an election. 50% were for Myra, 40% were for Jerry, and 10% were for Leah. I guess you know what I'm going to ask you to do now. That is find out how many votes this equates to. So the pie chart is out of 350, so what is 50% of 350? 50%, as you can see from the pie chart, and as you will probably know anyway, is half. 50% equals half. So what is half of 350? Some of you will easily be able to do that in your heads. Others might have to do a short division sum like this, okay? So 2s into 3 go 1 time, remainder 1. 2s into 15 go 7 times, remainder 1. 2s into 10 go 5. So Myra got 175 votes, which is half of 350. Okay. Leah here, she only got 10% of the votes. How do we find 10% of the votes? The votes were 350 votes. 10% of 350, some of you will know like that. Others, I'm just going to go through it, okay? So, let's see. 10% is 10 out of 100. Percentages are always out of 100, okay? So 10% is equal to 1/10 of that amount. 1/10 of 350. How do we find a tenth of something? We find a tenth of something by dividing by 10. Okay, that's how you find 10%, okay? So 1/10 equals 10%. So when you're doing percentages, you always find 10% by dividing by 10, okay? Right, so 10% of 350, 10s into 350. So we were working out what 1/10 of 350 was, because 1/10 is equal to 10%. You're finding 10% when you find 1/10. So 10s into 350. 10s into 3 go 0. 10s into 35 go 3 times, remember 5. And 10s into 50 go 5 times. So a tenth of 350, as I'm sure you know, is 35. So 10%, the votes that Leah got was 35 votes for Leah. Jerry. What percentage has Jerry got? Jerry's got 40%. Okay, so the detectives amongst you, if you know what 10% is, you're going to be able to find out what 40% is, aren't you? So if 10% is 35, you're going to have to make that 4 times bigger, okay, to make 40%. So 35 times 4, 5 fours are 20, 3 fours are 12, 13, 14, 140 votes for Jerry, okay? So once you know what 10% is, you can find out what 40% is. Pretty straightforward. Okay, I'm going to rub out this and get another example, which we'll go through, then I'm going to set some work and I'll give you the answers tomorrow. Hold fire a moment. Right, so back with pie chart number 2. So this is the votes of 20 children for they're voting for the name of a new football team. Okay, so the 20 children, 60% voted for Rovers, 30% for Rascals and 10% for Rangers. So, of course, we need to work out how many children voted for each name, okay? So 10% is always easy to find, isn't it? Because 10% is equal to 1/10. And the reason we know that is because 10 is out of 100. And percentages are always out of 100. And 10 out of 100 cancels down to 1/10. So we always find 1/10 of the total amount, and then you can find what 10% is. To find 1/10, you divide by 10. It is split into 10. You're finding one of those tenths, okay? So 10% voted for Rangers. So we're trying to find 10% of 20. 10% of 20s, how many 10s go into 20? 10, 20, pretty easy. 10% of 20 equals 2 children. So two children voted for Rangers. Now, if we know 10%, it's pretty easy then to find out the other percentages. So let's have a look at Rascals. So if 10% is 2 children, 30% is going to be 2 times 3, isn't it? Because 10% equals 2, we're going to need 3 lots of that to make 30%. Okay, so let's just write it out so we can understand it. 10% equals 2 children. So therefore, 30% is 3 times as big. Yeah, 10 times 3 equals 30. So we just make 2 3 times bigger, and that's how many have voted for Rascals. So that is 6. 2 3 to 6. Yeah, children. Some of you will have whizzed on ahead already, and we're now looking at the Rovers. So we have got 30% equals 6 children. So with that in mind, if we know that 30 equals 6, what is 60 going to equal? 30, what do you do to get 60? You double it. So what you're going to do with the children, 30 is 6 children, therefore 60 is double 6, which is? Of course, okay. That's absolutely right. Okay, so I'm going to set a couple more problems and then I'm going to leave you with them and I'm going to give you the answers tomorrow. Okay, hang on a minute. So here we are back with today's problems. We have 2 pie charts. You don't necessarily need to create the pie chart. You just need to take from it the data. Okay, the first pie chart is the size of shoe worn by 90 children. 90 is important because that's what the pie represents, 90. Okay, and you need to find out how many children wear each size. Okay, 40% of 2, 10% of 1, 20% of 4, 30% of 3. So you just need to pause it on this and then you can work out those percentages of the 90 children, which is the whole amount. Okay, question 2, the first 300 vowels in a book. 300 is the amount that that pie chart represents. 40% of that is E, the vowel E. 20% of that is the vowel A, etc., etc. Okay, and you need to work out how many of those 300 was each vowel. Okay, so you need to work out 40% of 300 to work out what number of E's there were in the first 300 vowels in the book. Get it? Hopefully, you've got to find 10%, okay? I'm sure you'll be able to do it. So, keep your answers for tomorrow. I will be back with them then. Enjoy your maths. And if you like what you see, subscribe, like me, and turn on post notifications. See you tomorrow.